What needs to be said about Hayao Miyazaki? The Walt Disney of Japan, mastermind. Calling him one of the greatest directors in anime contains too many qualifiers, as he's not only one of the best in anime, not only one of the best in all animation, but in all filmmaking. The fact his films are drawn takes nothing away from the genius of his work. Actually, if anything, it adds so much. He's made so many classics, from his early works like Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, Castle in the Sky, and the iconic My Neighbor Totoro, to late career classics like Howl's Moving Castle and The Wind Rises, to my personal favorites of his that I consider masterpieces, like the beautiful simplicity of Kiki's Delivery Service, my go-to comfort film about keeping passion in the things you love, or the stunning Spirited Away, which moves at a breakneck pace but manages to wring tears out constantly. Or my favorite by him, his magnum opus, Princess Mononoke, and its vivid portrayals of war, environmental exploitation, and some of the most thoughtful scenes of his career. If you can't tell, he's someone that if you haven't seen his works, I recommend them highly. There have been countless times he's made me cry, and despite me not growing up on him, he still managed to deeply weave his way into my love of cinema. Yes, many of them are made with children in mind, they're animated, and in Japanese. Though there are dubs filled with celebrities if you just can't handle subtitles. But if those are the things holding you back, I feel truly sorry for you, because you are holding yourself back from life-changing art. In his old age of 82 though, it's not surprising that the man has in fact retired from directing. In fact, he retired 4 times, and he's failed every single one. First was Princess Mononoke, a huge piece of fiction that explored several of the themes that he's found most important in his career. What a film to go out on! Then a couple of years later, he felt the need to come back and makes another film he found extremely important to himself in Spirited Away, which he also promised would be his last film. And then it just goes on to become the most successful film in Japanese box office history, it becomes his most critically acclaimed film, it breaks him into America, and even wins him an Oscar. So I guess he decided it was worth it to stick around a bit more. Alright, but in 2013, he's 72, this is finally it. He releases a film that ties in his love of flight, which comes from his father, with his love of art and how it drives him, and makes The Wind Rises. That surely should be it. And then he came back with this film here anyway, writing an entire essay about how he tried so hard to not come back, but just had an idea he couldn't bear to go unrealized. But this film, this is truly his final film. Except like a few weeks after it premiered in Japan, he came into Studio Ghibli with another idea. Oh boy! But here we have it, a film by one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, who's returning with a film that he quit his retirement over. And I was lucky enough to see it an entire month early thanks to the wonderful folks at IFFBoston, allowing me to see it at their Fall Focus Festival at the Brattle Theater as press. Thank you so much to them, and genuinely, I talk about their fest every year because they are truly amazing. Really recommend them if you're local. They have events all year round. But anyway, let's get into one of the most anticipated films of the year. The Boy and the Heron begins with showing us that despite his old age, Miyazaki's gift with the pencil is just as fresh as it was in his prime. With its use of techniques inspired by oil paintings to create unique effects for fire really blowing me away in its first opening scene. Honestly, the visual design here is some of the best of his career, some of the best environments and effects we've ever seen. It really feels like every frame could stand in a museum all on its own, and arguably he took a lot of notes from various avenues, like classically trained modern art rooms to even picture book illustrations as seen in the design of the Parakeet Man. And Joe Hisaishi, of course, accentuates these beautiful images with yet another incredible score to add to his collection of Ghibli favorites, full of short bursts of beautiful piano and string raises that focuses more on smaller pieces so that each song can focus on one specific mood and work singularly. This is going to be one to add to the playlist, and it's one I'm going to return to frequently just on my own time anyway. Not to mention, it's clear in a lot of ways this is a very personal film for Miyazaki. It's literally been stated in some press material that it is semi-autobiographical. And you can feel it in how it portrays a parent being lost in the war. In this film, it's the main character's mother, but in real life, it was his father. And how he spends years trying to get over it and escapes into fantasy before accepting that life must go on. And part of that is developed in the voice performance of the main character Mahito by Soma Santaki, who gives some incredibly heartbreaking line deliveries that bring this all together. Like a good deal of Miyazaki's work, it's the personal feeling, the touch of passion he brings that gives it extra meaning. And with that comes utterly heart-rending scenes, some being some of the most intense and sullen scenes of his career, and many using the magical realism of his typical fantasy worlds to bring it together. But at the same time, that fantasy world and the story being so personal are partially the film's downfall at points. Don't get me wrong, it is great, the press is correct. This is an incredible film by him. But knowing it's not actually his last has helped me come to terms with the truth that some of this has just been done better in other films by him. A young child being sucked into a magic world that forces them to grow up, with their driving care for others being what keeps them going, as well as a personal allegory for the self and a tribute to his father whom he lost young. We've seen him touch on both of those before, admittedly. It's hard to not feel this magic world is kinda underdeveloped at points. Feels like they give both too much information to leave this world as a mysterious land we get no answers from, but not enough for us to really feel like we have a grip on it. Honestly, I still feel lost on what the world was meant to be. A sort of purgatory, a world of those who can't let go from his family? Maybe, but it still feels like there's some missing pieces that kind of make it feel like we've lost something in the translation of the idea to paper. Or that maybe through his own personal understanding of the setting, some of it was lost to us as audience members on how it all comes together, that maybe make more sense to Miyazaki himself. At the same time though, in its most important emotionally intense moments, even if I was lost conceptually, you feel it deeply on an emotional level, and that is arguably way more important. It's one thing to understand a film, it's another to feel what it's going for. That's what we go to the cinemas for. And Miyazaki always lands on that front. Is it his best? No, honestly of his 4 retirement films, this is the weakest yet. But I do still see it as a wonderful entry in his filmography. It's rare that films get me to audibly gasp or grip my seat, but he always manages it, and you can tell this is one of his most personal works, even if it does feel like it's missing some key points of development to make it shine its best. It may not be his best work, but no one does it like Miyazaki, and after still enjoying this one quite a good deal, I'm glad he hasn't shut the door on making films just yet. Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron gets an 8 out of 10.